Fuzz and Mac, you guys want to add on to any of that?
All right, you pretty much nailed it.
Yeah, Mac, what's up?
You're good. We can move on.
All right.
That was good.
And then I saw this because people are getting paid slave wages right now. Like the minimum wage has not gone up in decades. It's absolutely disgusting. And I really admired what these people in Chipotle, I don't remember which city or state it was, but I think that every worker out there that works for a big chain like Chipotle, like Walmart, like Target, like Amazon should be doing something like this. So this is a great Twitter account you guys should follow. It's called @BrandsOwned. It posts stuff about when brands get owned. And here Chipotle is getting owned. It says the workers at this Chipotle said no more exploiting us. And here's the sign that they put up. They didn't show up to work. Instead, they left this sign and they said, "Attention Chipotle customers, want to know why we are closed? Ask our corporate offices why their employees are forced to work in borderline sweatshop conditions for 8+ hours without breaks. We are overworked, understaffed, underpaid, and underappreciated. Almost the entire management and crew have walked out until further notice. People should be greater than profits. People should be worth more than profits. Repost this if you agree. Help us spread awareness. Hashtag free. What does it say? Hashtag free chip workers." And then here's another one. Putting up signs said, "We demand change. Overwork, underpaid. Sorry for the inconvenience, but uh, due to us being overworked, understaffed, and underappreciated, we are protesting until conditions are changed." Again, I wish all workers that work for major chains do this. I love seeing that. But yeah, Mark, RJ, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are this is a beautiful fucking thing because even though I'm young, I still remember 2008. I
Mm-hmm.
was pissed. It was crazy. My dad's pay got froze. He worked at Toys R Us. Fuck that place. My mom was a nurse. It was hard on her. So I mean, let's break this down. So what was the mentality back in the 2008 recession? Oh look, look at all the jobs. You want to be with them? You want to be like the homeless? Oh here, take the less pay. We'll give you your benefits. But the problem is inflation rose like a bitch. All the prices went up. Food, gas, it was fucking terrible. I mean, $4 a gallon for gas. I mean, that's how bad it was, right? Oh, but you still had a job. And so this time around, especially with COVID, all the billionaires, the oligarchs, making double their net worth in a year when it took them 20 plus years to make that much money. Working class people were like, fuck that shit. We seen what the COVID bills were, giving all that money to these different type of corporations. I mean, fucking casinos, they avoid our tax system year in and year out. And then when they get broke because of COVID comes around, oh, now they want the money and they pay no taxes. So the average working American is fucking pissed. They're like, you know what? We're not having your shit. And I see on Twitter all the time some whole lot of apolitical people who aren't lefties are saying, hey, look, keep holding out. It's the same thing as Wall Street bets. Hold the line. Wait until you get 15. We'll get 15 one way or the other. We're not waiting for the federal government. We'll make the small and pop get 15. And right now, I see across the country, I see businesses. It's like a bidding auction right now. 12.75, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's beautiful. It's beautiful right now. So we have to keep fighting and let's stop settling for less because the billionaire oligarchs, they don't just, oh, well, it's capitalism, it's the free market, it's a downturn. Nope, they come crying and they shove everybody else out of the front of lines to take our money. So we need to hold fast, hold our feet, hold the politicians' feet to the fire, and take our money and run because that's what the oligarchs are doing. And we need to do the exact same thing to save our brothers and sisters. And we also need mutual aid just so if there's a general strike that happens, that way our brothers and sisters can be safe, and that's what we got to do, and that's what I take from that segment.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, beautiful. I wish that everybody, like, they can't fire all of us if we all do it. Like, if all these main chain workers started doing what these workers here who we're admiring here did this. But yeah, because it's just this one group, though, it's not enough. We should all be doing this. We should all be hitting the streets. Fuzz and Mac, do you guys agree? That do you think that this is not enough yet?
Yeah, I think it's an isolated incident, and I think it's great to think about a general strike and look into the history of that, how it's been done, what were the outcomes. There's a lot that we can learn from the history of the workers' movement. But at this time, we don't really have any culture around strikes at all. Like, it's very rare to see big strikes, at least in my experience here in New York City. Like, sometimes you'll see labor disputes that are kind of isolated here and there. I mean, there was a Hunts Point strike in the Bronx that I covered. I interviewed some workers over there. That's a whole nother story, but it's relatively rare. So I guess we need to figure out how do we make this a more common thing so that we can actually experience, like gain experience in this struggle and learn more, you know, because most people are relatively depoliticized. And even those of us that are like really into politics, very few of us have any like real connection to the labor movement, you know? I mean, even unionized labor is quite a rare thing nowadays. You know, it's pretty uncommon. It's only a small percentage of the population in the US that is part of a union. And that's a big issue. A lot of these low wage jobs, they're struggling to even get a union, you know? I was thinking like it would be an interesting idea to find a way for outsiders to kind of start making connections with people who do work these jobs and try to find like a few sympathizers within the jobs, you know, because when you actually work a job, it's actually really hard to like bring up politics with people, and like it's inherently risky when you could get fired, you know? Whereas if you don't work at that specific place, you can help other people organize and try to bring like create a network outside of work, you know, where people can safely talk and think and consider these political questions. It's really hard to like organize people on the job. It's at least way more risky, in my opinion.
Yeah, people are scared because in this capitalist system, they've been brainwashed to be afraid of it. Like we see, like in mainstream shows. I remember I was watching The Office a long time ago, and they were making a joke out of forming a union. When the people downstairs were trying to form a union, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are dumb. Like that's not how you do it." And you're gonna some. They were making fun of them pretty much for trying to organize. People are afraid to lose their health care. They're afraid to lose their benefits. A lot of them are working two jobs just to make ends meet and put food on the table for their family. People are afraid. But Fuzz, what do you think, man? How can we make people feel like they're not afraid?
I do gotta say that labor strikes are at the heart of most revolutions that happen. Like most of the industry of the country that's affected has to come to a screeching halt before any change happens. And several occasions, like um, Mac, I remember you interviewed some protesters that AOC had stopped by to provide a speech for, and
The
then
Hunt
oh,
strike protests.
yeah, that one. And ultimately, after one appearance, the company said, "All right, fine, we'll give you wage increases, but it'll accumulate over a period of a few years." And then the movement died. It looked like it fizzled out as a result of that because there wasn't any more steps that could be done. So something that should be thought about is having an established safety net to cover a community of people that want to like exit out of their job but won't have will have their most basic needs met in the middle of the collective bargaining process. That's something that I've been trying to think about on how to approach this kind of issue. I don't know what you guys think.
That's a really good idea. I mean, that's known as strike funds, if I understand correctly. It's basically just like having resources set aside so that you can help people who end up getting fired or whatever, like people who are not getting paychecks, so that a strike can actually last longer. We should learn about how to accumulate those kind of resources and, you know, learn how it's been done in the past. In terms of mass strikes being at the heart of any revolution, I'm not sure, because I think mass strikes are more involved in the history of insurrections. Like when governments are overthrown through insurrections, I think mass strikes play more of a role, whereas, we've talked about Mao's theory of protracted people's war and, building up a popular war over a long period of time. And in those situations, I'm not sure if, like, what role strikes and mass strikes have really played. We should look more into it. Also, like when we talk about the Black Panther Party, one thing that is very much missing from Black Panther history is often like involvement in the labor movement. That's something I haven't really come across too much, that topic. Like, how did they actually involve themselves with labor? And one big problem with this, just to end this comment, I know I'm talking a lot. Um, One of the reasons that the Panthers weren't that involved with the labor movement is that many Black people were excluded from labor altogether, or like legal labor, right? Which is why the Panthers initially targeted who they called the brothers on the block, the long-term unemployed, people who struggled to maintain legal jobs, So that kind of like took certain tactics off the table, I would say, or made them less possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Before we move on, I want to let people know about Derek Bros is working on a documentary series called The Pyramid of Power. And I urge people to share this to as many people as you can, because it exposes how the U.S. empire, the U.S. capitalist empire, extends its tentacles to almost everything that's around you in your life. With education, we have big education. Then we have like our social media, big tech influencing things, Hollywood and our media. Like I just talked about The Office and how they were trying to implant messages about trying to make people feel afraid or feel like they're stupid for trying to form a union. Big pharma, all these things are connected. They're owned by very like just a few individuals, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, Bill Gates, and they implant messages in people that stays embedded in our subconscious to make us fear power and make it just be obedient servants. So the more that we share this, the more that we expose this, the more that you plant seeds into people and understand, oh my God, I've been brainwashed since I was a child when I was in school, when they were teaching me to just color within the lines and not question authority. Exposing these things and helping people to understand how societies function and creating self-awareness, that can help us have a more conscious revolution to what's happening here. And it can help us think about solutions, about how we can opt out of the system, how we can have a revolution. I'm just gonna give some shout outs here before we move on here in the Super Ray chats. I've been demonetized. Just a reminder for everybody. Big Tech has caught me, as well as many others like Graham Elwood, Jamal Thomas, Nico House, and Combo Couch from the MCSC network, which I'm also a part of. So Shadowban Refugee said, got yourself a premium subscription today, fam. Thank you very much, Shadowban Refugee. Yeah, if you want to contribute, if you want me to read some of you guys' comments on the screen here and share our thoughts about what you guys say, just hit us up over at Rockfin. We'll read your comments. So let's
can I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not the most important thing, but I just want to correct the record as a longtime Office fan. I think the main point of the episode was kind of showing, it was kind of educational because it showed that once the higher ups realized that they were trying to form a union in the warehouse, the lady says, if they form a union, we'll end up closing down the whole branch or whatever. And that's a big issue with labor organizing too. Like from what I've seen at some of these Walmarts or like these different corporate locations that actually do manage to get unionized, sometimes like they just shut down the whole operation to punish everybody. Because I guess a huge corporation can afford to like take a short-term loss if they can make a huge statement and basically mess up all these people's lives,
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, in the beginning they were trying to make them look dumb, but yeah, it looks like they had to acknowledge that. But yeah, a good message to take away from that. RJ, you want to share any final thoughts before we move on to the Colombia topic?
yeah, my final thoughts are just to add on to what my man said about that. It really speaks what happened to the Amazon union drive in Bessemer, Alabama. I mean, Amazon did a lot of dirty tactics, a lot of fear mongering through the mail about what the dangers are of having a union, often times threatening to close down a warehouse. And you see a lot of workers who may not understand all the details. I mean, it's hard. I mean, they're working 12 hours a day, blood,
Yeah.
sweat, and tears. I mean, so you can't really blame them. So I think like it's our job as political educators to really work hard to educate them about these certain scenarios. But it's crazy how capitalism, these big businesses band together and are so blatant in their ways to shut it down. So I think the problem the left has is yes, we can educate people to understand, but if these big corporations are basically making their material conditions more terrible than it is and threatening to do so if they join us, I mean, it makes it very difficult. So that's why if we are advocating for people to like go on a general strike, or if we want to run like mutual aid just in case something like that breaks down. So I think we really need to be more offensive in general, but better our defenses as well, because these big corporations, they can be offensive because they know they have friends in the industry where if they get unlucky, they can cover them. So that's
Mm-hmm.
just my final thought.
Well said. Yeah.
Can I say one last thing, just
Yeah.
real quick? It's really interesting how a lot of these jobs will actually have you watch anti-union videos, like
Oh,
when you
I
get
was I
hired.
was gonna
I know
ask
I
you that. Yeah.
experienced that.
Thanks
That's a
for
pretty,
bringing that
like,
up. Yeah.
that
So
shouldn't even be legal, honestly.
you
Like,
so
that's pretty manipulative.
so Mac, you had a job, right? Well, you had a job where they were making you watch anti-union videos. Can you
Yeah, I
imagine
only
like how
had to
many
watch
other jobs
one.
do that to their workers?
I only had to watch one anti-union video the day I got hired. But from what I was seeing about the Amazon situation in Alabama, if I understand correctly, they were being shown like anti-union information and propaganda pretty regularly. Like, I don't know how often, like maybe every few weeks or something like that. But they were definitely fear mongering and going out of their way to make people suspicious of unions too. I remember at the job that I had, they were saying, like, watch out if anybody comes up to you trying to talk about unionizing, like they're trying to take advantage of you type of thing. So that's why I was thinking about, like, how could we as outsiders on these jobs, they can't fire us. Like, you could have potential to have, like, help create a network in somebody else's workplace,
Oh, okay.
maybe even easier than on your own job, because
Yeah.
where you could get fired. That's at least what I'm thinking so far.
We could try doing like what you told us the other day, like off of camera when we weren't like live or anything. You told us that what we could do is talk to some of these workers. Like if you see an Amazon delivery person, just be, hey man, what do you think about your job? Like I heard like such and such things, like people peeing in bottles. Like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I see
Um,
Amazon workers all around New York City, and I started doing this thing. I've only talked to a few of them so far, but I want to do way more. I started doing this thing where I just come up and innocently ask them, be like, yo, bro, I know you're working, but can I ask you something real quick? And I'll be like, yo, I saw some documentaries about how, like, working for Amazon is really, like, really hard. Like, is that true?
yeah,
Like, instead of just going up to them and telling them, like, yo, Amazon's really evil or something like that,
yeah, it's too
they
pushy.
won't even know what to think. I try to just be like, what are they going to say? And then depending on how they answer, you could continue the conversation. And the few guys that I did talk to so far, I told them look up Christian Smalls and the Amazon organizing, stuff like that. I mean, we can even have
Awesome.
like little
Yeah.
flyers that we could give them, a card or something where we can actually start developing a network, like start maintaining contact with them. Like, yo, how many people around this country get Amazon workers coming to their door delivering stuff, right?
Yeah.
You could start a quick conversation with them. And the fact that they're delivery drivers too, they don't even have their bosses like right on top of them too. So you could have like a real talk with them.
And I think that even if they don't say things are that bad, in the back of their head or in their head, they are thinking things are probably really bad. They just don't want to talk about it probably to a stranger, but at least you're planting that seed into them and, giving them information about Chris Smalls and all that. That implants some seeds for them to create some kind of organization there where they can fight back. But yeah, well said, all of you guys.